So a few months ago, I picked up this BMW 528i Touring Sport. It is a model year 2000. It has the 2.8 liter M52 TU inline 6 engine with an automatic transmission. I picked this car up for a whopping $600. The car was not running when I picked it up initially. Essentially just the battery was dead. So got home, replaced the battery, and it fired straight up. I can't say it was running the best, but it was running. So after replacing the battery on this car, the first thing that I did was I did a deep clean of the interior. I removed all of the trash from it and gave it a really good wipe down. It probably took me about 4 hours to clean the junk out from inside of this car and to clean out all of the grime that had collected on everything from over the years. At some point, I guess one of the hood cables broke. Actually, one of the hood cables was broken, and someone had just taken it upon themselves to cut out the entire grille section of the hood. I ended up finding a replacement Titan Silver hood with intact grille sections and threw that on the car. It's not in the best shape, but it now latches like it's supposed to, so I don't have to worry about the hood flying up. Upon replacing the battery, I did a full mechanical safety check of everything. I found that the outer tie rods were worn out severely. All of the tires were bald. It was running pretty rough. It had some weird noises coming from the engine. The rear wheel bearings were worn out. They were making a lot of noise. But funny enough, even with all these issues, the AC was still ice cold. I'd call that a win considering the price I paid for this car. Now back to the funny noise that the engine was making. I ended up finding that the cylinder 2 spark plug was actually barely even threaded into the cylinder head. So there was basically combustion pressure leaking out from cylinder 2. It almost sounded like the engine was knocking, and I'm so glad that it was not, and it was just this simple spark plug issue. So I went ahead and threw a set of spark plugs in it. Luckily, all of the threads in the cylinder head are good, and all of the new plugs tightened down, so it looks like someone had just accidentally left the spark plugs loose, because not only was cylinder 2 loose, cylinder 2 was just the loosest out of all of the plugs. All of the rest of the plugs were loose as well. They just weren't loose enough to leak out combustion pressure. And while the spark plugs were being replaced, I replaced the valve cover gasket because it was just leaking oil straight onto the exhaust manifold, and there was a major leak coming from the oil filter housing. Pretty common leak areas. But all of that was taken care of, and the engine is still leaking a little bit of oil. It looks to be coming from the oil pan gasket, but I'm going to wait until the next oil change is due before I do anything. But the whole purpose of this car and why I purchased it, it was a very cheap car, obviously, but this is actually going to be the car that I will be putting most miles on for daily driving. Now, the E34, although I do love that car and I do love driving it, I'm going to try to put less miles on it overall at this point because that car is actually getting pretty rare, and also maybe because I'm getting older, the car is just getting a little bit uncomfortable to drive. It's on coilovers, it has a lightweight flywheel, I have full poly bushings in the suspension. The car is just very stiff. It is a joy to drive, but on especially longer trips, it just beats me up and I am completely sore the next day. So it's nice to have something that is essentially completely stock. And also, since this car, the E39, is in pretty rough shape overall, it doesn't matter if it gets some dings or dents in it. I'm not too worried if it gets some scratches. I'm not too worried about pretty much anything on it because the car is in overall rough shape anyways. Now, I am going to try to make improvements to this car as I have it. It's pretty sad because the hood was the only major issue on the body, I would say, when I purchased this car. And then the hood was replaced, and all I needed to worry about was basically repainting this hood and possibly the front bumper as well, obviously. But body-wise, the body was completely straight. Now, I say was because recently we had Hurricane Milton rip through Florida, and the E39 actually had a tree branch fall on top of it. If it wasn't for the basket on the roof, I believe the roof would have got completely crushed in because the basket took most of the brunt from that branch. It just dented the roof basket. It made two small dents in the roof itself, but they are very, very small. from the rack actually coming down and flexing a little bit. Now there's a dent in the driver's side fender, the driver's side door, and the driver's side D-pillar. But this car still has a lot of good going for it. Now, it is a sport model. It is not to be confused with an M Sport model. BMW did not offer an M Sport model of the E39 back when they came out, but this had M Sport trim. So it's got some cool M door sill plates. It's got the M Sport steering wheel. It's got the sport bumpers. Front bumper, I guess, was damaged before, so it has a Duraflex looking aftermarket bumper, which kind of sucks. I will be on the lookout for a sport bumper in Titan Silver if I can find one in the future. This car has the rear leveling suspension, the self-leveling suspension, so once you load it up, the airbags will pump up to adjust the height. And I was also able, at first when I got the car, the rear was pretty high, so the car was kind of raked out, but I was able to adjust the level of basically what the computer thought was the 0 point for the sensors, and now the car sits level front and rear. Another cool feature about this car, it has the rear parking distance sensors, so as you are reversing, if you're coming up close to an object, it will start beeping at you to warn you that the object is near. It has automatic windshield wipers, semi-automatic windshield wipers, so if it starts raining and you have it on the automatic setting, the windshield wipers will actually work automatically, which is another really cool feature. The automatic transmission is working fine as of right now. I did do a fluid service on it recently. I plan on doing another one to basically flush out all of the old fluid from the trans and replace the filter. I do plan on 5-speed swapping this at some point. I'm just not sure when. I do have a 5-speed get rag that was given to me. I was told that I just need to replace some synchros in it, so hopefully that's all it needs. And then I basically have everything else for the swap minus the flywheel and clutch and hydraulics. But looking forward to that in the future because it will make this car a lot more reliable. I feel like these automatics do not have the best reputation, and they kind of suck. It just always feels like I'm in the wrong gear, but at least it's working for right now, so. I do plan on doing a lot more maintenance on this thing. I plan on replacing the entire cooling system so that I do not have to worry about it anymore. I want to fix the rest of the oil leaks and then fix all of the small issues that are causing the warning lights to be on. I plan to keep this car as stock as possible because once all of the neglected maintenance items are replaced, I just want the car to be reliable. I want to be able to jump into it and drive it anywhere, still have fun with it, which is another reason why I want the 5-speed swap. I may end up even welding the diff to add additional fun to the car, but aside from that, maybe some stiffer shocks. Because this car does have a lot of body roll, that could just be because these shocks are worn out. But I'm sure even in stock form, these shocks are maybe a little bit too soft for my liking. I don't really want to go with coilovers. I like the load leveling suspension in the rear. I also plan on getting a Euro tow hitch so that I can tow with this car. I want to be able to tow a small trailer with some dirt bikes on it, and I don't trust a body-mounted hitch. So the Euro hitches actually mount to the rear bumper mounting points itself. And with a proper hitch setup, these cars can actually tow about 4,400 pounds, which is really impressive. I'd also like to slowly make some improvements to the car aesthetically. I want to eventually get a front bumper in silver or get one painted to match the body color. I want to repaint this hood because the paint is obviously completely worn out on the hood. The paint on the roof is actually pretty worn out too. But aside from that, the rest of the paint on the car is actually in pretty decent shape. It just needs a good buff. The wheels need to be refinished, and also the interior needs a lot of work. There's a lot of things broken in the interior. The driver's side seat is completely worn out. With a $600 car, you can only expect so much. I am happy that with some simple maintenance, the car is now running and driving, and I'm able to use it as a daily driver as I intended to. So I also recently sold my truck, so it's nice to have a another daily driver that I can rely on when the that way I don't have to put as many miles onto the E34. So I'm very happy with the decision I made picking up this car, and I believe it's going to do everything I intended it to do when I initially purchased it. So if you stuck with me this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to see in the future regarding this car or the others, please let me know down in the comments. You can always follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Supernato. Thank you again for watching. Take it easy.